Making headlines this hour, State Minister at the Health Ministry Dunya Momoon says the current government's policies are vital for the development and prosperity of the country. Parliament is to reconvene on February 6th for its first session of this year. The Syrian army repels an attack by IS on government-held areas of Deir al-Zawr.
Good evening and welcome to Nightly News on Television Maldives with me, Fatma Sara. Anti-Corruption Commission ACC and State Electric Company Stelco sign a Memorandum of Understanding to work against corruption. Speaking about the MOU, Managing Director of Stelco Abdul Shakur Solihu said that awareness workshops and technical assistance will be provided under this MOU. Also speaking at the MOU signing ceremony, President of ACC Hassan Lutfi said the responsibility to fight corruption should not be seen as the sole responsibility of the Commission, but a collective duty of everyone. He also praised Stelco initiative to combat corruption. Stelco said it will also use a giant LED screen erected within its compound to display corruption awareness messages. Maldives Blood Services MBS says preliminary examinations have begun at Manipal Hospital, India, for 6 thalassemia patients from the Maldives who are undergoing bone marrow transplant procedures with financial assistance from Zakat Fund. The Zakat Fund provided between 900,000 and 1 million rupiah to each of the 6 children. The assistance covers the cost of medical procedures, return airfares and 3-month accommodation. According to MBS, the National Social Protection Agency NSPA will cover additional costs if any of the patients require post-surgery treatment. The government handed over the notification of financial assistance to the children on November 30th. Back then, the government and President Abdul Qayyum's pledge to assist 25 thalassemia children to undergo bone marrow transplant during his 5-year term had been fulfilled with the provision of assistance to the 6 children. Over 57 thalassemia patients have so far underwent a bone marrow transplant with financial assistance from the government. State Minister at the Health Ministry Dunya Momoon says President Abdul Qayyum's policies are vital for the development and prosperity of the country. In an exclusive interview with PSM, she said that President Yamin has given a great deal of importance to protect the country's Islamic faith and sovereignty. She also highlighted that President Yamin's administration fully recognizes the people's aspirations for socio-economic development. In her first interview after being appointed State Minister at the Health Ministry, Dunya noted her previous work in health-related programs while working at the United Nations office in Male and assured her willingness to work with Health Minister Abdul Nazim Ibrahim to deliver the government's efforts to improve the healthcare sector. Parliament is to reconvene for its first session of this year on February 6th. The Parliament Secretariat has yet to announce the venue of the opening session. As stipulated by Article 84 of the Constitution, President Abdul Qayyum will deliver the annual presidential address to open the Parliament for 2017. The President's address will focus on the current status of the country and propose development plans for the year ahead. As per regulations, Majority Leader of Parliament will respond to the President's address. 380 bills were submitted to Parliament last year, of which 376 were passed. Today marks the National Poets' Day. The day is marked every year in memory of the famous Maldivian poet Ibrahim Shihab. There are 7 main genres of poetry in Maldives, all of which portrays the riches of the Maldivian language. Maldivians have used poetry as a form of communication and in nationwide public awareness campaigns. The National Poets' Day has been marked every year since 1989. Looking at business news, Maldives Marketing and Public Relations Corporation MMPRC holds an information session for companies participating in 3 tourism-related fairs to be held in Europe this month. The 3 fairs are Fitur International Tourism Fair in Spain to be held from January 18th to 22nd, Bad Rudelsdorf Fair in Germany from January 21st to 29th, and Fespo Fair in Switzerland from January 26th till 29th. MMPRC says the representatives from 19 local companies will participate in the Fitur Fair, while representatives from 6 companies will participate in both Bad and Fespo Fair. Director at MMPRC Fatmat Wahil said they are meeting the participants of the fair to provide information about the events. She added that all these fairs play a major role in further promoting the Maldivian tourism sector and attract more tourists. MMPRC plays a major role in promoting the Maldives as a tourist destination by participating in numerous fairs and road shows held across the globe. Shanghai Beta Technology Co. Limited releases the first annual report for 2016 of companies listed on stock markets of Shanghai and Shenzhen, with both income and profit beyond expectation.
The listed auto producer BEAT reported operating revenue of approximately $160 million in 2016, creating a net profit of 55.76 million yuan, up 20.1% profit year-on-year. There are another 16 listed companies that will release their annual reports in January. A total of 1,338 companies listed on Shanghai and Shenzhen stock markets had released advance notices of annual report for 2016 by Thursday, and 1,040 of the companies revealed advance reports of their net profit margins, which showed 978 companies or 94.4% gain profits. Companies in some traditional industries with overcapacity, especially the coal, iron and steel and chemical industries, saw better prosperity in 2016 with the deepening of the supply side reform as shown in the advance notice. Experts say one important reason was cyclic factors. According to Wind statistics, 69% of the listed coal companies that have released annual report advance notices achieved revenue growth or made up deficits. The same data in the iron and steel industry was about 60%, while in the chemical industry, some companies' net profit of the whole year grew over 100 times.
Looking at news from international arena, 24 bodies have been recovered and rescue operations are underway in India's eastern Bihar province after a boat capsized in the river Ganges. The accident occurred in Patna district when the boat was ferrying people who were returning after a kite festival during the festival of Makar Sankranti. The vessel, which had taken people for a free ride from the Ganga Ghat, was reportedly overcrowded and capsized. A large crowd of onlookers, including relatives of missing passengers, gathered by the river bank, and many were seen distraught and in tears. The rescued were admitted in the Patna Medical College and Hospital. Air services resume at an international airport in India's northern Uttar Pradesh a day after a radar system failure led to its total shutdown, causing inconvenience for passengers. All flights in and out of Lucknow city's Chaudhry Charan Singh International Airport were put on hold due to a failure of a radar signal encoder Doppler Very High Frequency Omnidirectional Range DEVO on Saturday afternoon. At least 16 flights were diverted to nearby airports, and many anxious passengers had complained about lack of information from authorities. Lucknow Airport director said that the snag has been rectified and services resumed after 12:30 a.m. on Sunday. He added that no term issued earlier stints within withdrawn airliners along with catering facilities have been informed of the same. And the Syrian army repels an attack by IS on government-held areas of Deir al-Zor, the militants' biggest assault in months, which a monitor says left dozens dead. The British-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported that IS militants launched their biggest attack in months on government-held areas of the Syrian city of Deir el-Zor, leaving dozens dead. At least 6 large explosions rocked the city soon after dawn as the militants clashed with army and allied forces. The observatory and state media said Syrian government warplanes hit back against IS positions. Syrian state news agency SANA said the army was repelling attacks by the ultra-hardline group along several front lines, including around the military airport controlled by the government. SANA reported that IS shelling killed 3 people and wounded 9 in residential government-held districts. According to the observatory, the fighting and bombardment killed at least 12 government forces and 20 IS fighters. Meanwhile, Turkish military says army jets carried out strikes against 12 IS targets in Al-Bab and Bazag in northern Syria. In a roundup of its operations in the region over the past 24 hours, the Turkish military said 9 IS fighters had been killed in the air strikes which were carried out on Saturday. Turkish Foreign Ministry says Ankara and Moscow have decided to invite the United States to the planned Syria peace talks in Astana, but Kurdish militia YPG will not attend the meeting.
Turkey's Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu said Turkey and Russia have decided to invite the United States to Syria peace talks due to be held this month in the Kazakh capital Astana. He reiterated that Turkey remained opposed to the inclusion of the Syria Kurdish militant group YPG in the talks. Cavusoglu told reporters in capital Ankara that they have given them opportunities to stop seceding Syria and carrying out terrorist activities in Turkey. He said their operations Euphrates Shield once again showed that YPG is not aiming to fight against Daesh but to divide Syria. The Syrian government and rebel groups opposed to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad began a nationwide ceasefire on December 30th, brokered by Moscow and Ankara. The agreement aims to pave the way for new peace talks, which Russia hopes to convene in the Kazakh capital Astana later this month with Turkish and Iranian support. The date and its participants remain unclear. United Nations Syria mediator Staffan de Mistura has said he intends to convene separate peace talks in Geneva on February 8. The UN-backed talks have been held intermittently. Russia says the Kazakh talks would complement rather than compete with the UN talks.
France says a 2-state solution between Israelis and Palestinians is the only way forward in peace efforts. The French foreign minister said this at the Middle East summit. Some 70 countries, including key European and Arab states, as well as the permanent members of United Nations Security Council, gathered in Paris for a meeting that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected as fertile and rigged. France has said the meeting does not intend to impose anything on Israel or Palestinians, and that ultimately only direct negotiations between the two can resolve the conflict. Major powers will send a message to US President-elect Donald Trump that a 2-state solution between Israelis and Palestinians is the only way forward, and warned that his plan to move the US embassy to Jerusalem could derail peace efforts. British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson meets the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres as part of negotiations to thrash out a security deal for a post-settlement reunited Cyprus. The foreign ministers of Britain, Greece, Turkey met on Thursday at the Geneva conference to discuss the 1960 treaty, cited by at least one of them in the past as a basis for intervening in the Mediterranean island. Cyprus was split in a Turkish invasion in 1974, following a brief coup engineered by the military then ruling Greece. It has been divided since, with Turkish Cypriots in its north and Greek Cypriots in its south. The Geneva conference is being chaired by new UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in his first major involvement in a conflict which has been on the world body's agenda for more than half a century and hosts one of the world's longest-serving peacekeeping forces. Chanting, "We won't be trumped," thousands marched in Washington against President-elect Donald Trump, who will be sworn in as the US's 45th president next week.
U.S. civil rights activists kicked off a week of protest ahead of Donald Trump's presidential inauguration with a march in Washington on Saturday, vowing to keep fight for equality and justice under the upcoming administration. Chanting "No Justice, No Peace," a few thousand protesters headed by the Reverend Al Sharpton marched along the National Mall towards the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial, about 2 miles from the steps of the U.S. Capitol, where Trump will be sworn in as president on Friday. Protesters braved drizzle and temperatures just above freezing to show their support for minority rights and President Barack Obama's signature healthcare law, which Trump has vowed to dismantle. Sharpton also called for police to re-examine their treatment of minorities. Police killings of several unarmed black men in 2014 led to nationwide protests and the rise of the grassroots movement known as Black Lives Matter. Supporters of the movement, including some Democrats, have said it shines a light on a previously overlooked problem of excessive use of force against blacks by police. Critics, including President-elect Donald Trump and other Republicans, have criticized Black Lives Matter as unfairly maligning police doing a dangerous job.
To go in and have a session on session.
Former Australian Open champion Rafael Nadal says he is injury-free heading into 2017 Australian Open, while defending women's champion Angelique Kerber is ready for the new challenge of being world number 1. It has been a long time since Rafael Nadal was pain-free, but at least he will be competing at full speed at the Australian Open after putting his injury woes behind him. The 30-year-old, whose bustling power game propelled him to 14 Grand Slam titles, including one at Melbourne Park in 2009, has been blighted by injuries since 2012, and in the last 2 years he has looked a shadow of the player he once was. He has not advanced to a Grand Slam quarter-final since Roland Garros in 2015, and last year was dumped out of the Australian Open in the first round by compatriot Fernando Verdasco. Meanwhile, Melbourne Park was the scene of the stunning breakthrough of Angelique Kerber's tennis career, so the German has naturally savoured some golden memories before beginning the defence of her Australian Open title. The emotions bubbled to the surface as the late-blooming left-hander was driven through the Melbourne Park gates for the first time since coming back this year. And on a lighter note, a SpaceX Falcon rocket blasted off from California on Saturday, returning the company to flight for the first time since a Fury launchpad explosion in September.
SpaceX Falcon rocket launched from Vandenberg Air Force Base at 17:54 GMT aimed to deliver 10 satellites into orbit for Iridium Communications Inc. About 10 minutes after launch, the first stage of the rocket successfully touched down on a platform in the Pacific Ocean, a feat previously accomplished by 4 other returning Falcon rockets. SpaceX intends to reuse its rockets to cut costs. SpaceX founder and entrepreneur Elon Musk's ambitious flight plans had been grounded since the September explosion during fueling ahead of a pre-flight test in Florida. The accident clouded the company's aggressive agenda, which includes beginning to ferry U.S. astronauts into space next year, when it also plans to make its first voyage to Mars. Saturday's flight would begin to clear a logjam of more than 70 missions, worth more than $10 billion, awaiting flight on SpaceX Falcon rockets, which last flew in August.
With that, that's it for now. Stay tuned for more updates of recent current affairs stories here on Television Maldives. Thank you for joining us. Wish you a pleasant evening. Good night.